Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be jumping back into our Ghastly Affair actual play for something like what would we call it? A session 1.5. If you'll remember from the last video where we left off, we were having a bit of a debate in the Salon about who was going to be joining Garrick on this expedition across the Mediterranean. And we had sort of three different debates that we went through to see whether the Gypsy, the Grave Robber, and the Libertine were coming. In the end, we argued the Gypsy out of coming, but the Grave Robber, and the Libertine are both going to be along the trip with us. So a few things I wanted to go over from last session. I think that there were some missed opportunities during this social combat to introduce some plot elements, to throw a few twists in there. For instance, when the Gypsy got rejected, we just had her kind of walk off. I think that was it. She's like, okay, I'm not going, bye. But I think it might have been cool to use our old Game Master's Apprentice cards like I like to do, or even pick up something from our Lights Press, Gothic Horror, The Simple Approach. It might have been cool to check out some of the different plot charts, plot categories and things we could roll on. But we didn't do that. We ended up just kind of like going from one debate to the other without much unexpected, without anything really unexpected happening in between each of these arguments. And I just thought, I was thinking about that. I was thinking that would have been a good opportunity for some stuff to happen. So what I'm thinking is we could go ahead and, still have that happen at the end of this debate that goes on. We can sort of see, okay, we did this debate. Let's pull out some cards and figure out some interesting plot stuff to have happen at this moment. Besides that, we do need to, before we proceed into the session 2, we do need to fill out the two characters, the Grave Robber and the Libertine. Right now we just have their charisma, intelligence, and a couple relevant special abilities and assets and afflictions. Really, that was all just the baseline information we needed to have social combat with them. But we need to fill those two characters out. I want to have some weird plot thing happen before we wrap up the Salon conversation. And I did decide that I think it would be best for us for session 1 and for what happens next in the story, for us to actually go along with them on that boat ride across the Mediterranean. Just because I think there's a lot of fun opportunities for interesting things to happen on a boat ride across the Mediterranean. And so I'd still need to do some research between this episode and when we actually set sail, which would be the next episode, to see how long that's going to take. In the player's manual here, if we take a look at the common situations, there is a section for travel. And travel rates, it says watercraft, sailing craft average 120 miles a day. And so I can go ahead and use that and do some research on how long or like how far it is from Spain over to the other side of the Mediterranean, see what sort of ports would be common to stop at, because I assume we're not just going to sail all the way across. We're probably going to stop somewhere, maybe Sicily and then maybe Greece. I don't know. I have to do a little bit of research on that, so I'm going to check that out between this episode and the next and get a little bit of a sense of what a boat ride across the Mediterranean would look like in the 1700s. That way we can know what setting and what framework we're working within and make relevant decisions when it comes to plot and the sorts of things that might happen. But yeah, Gothic Horror, boat ride, fits just right. So I think that's what we're going to do. And then after that, if the actual play or this playthrough of Ghastly Affair, or this particular affair, is turning out pretty awesome, we'll land at the other end of the Mediterranean and have a whole other set of adventures to go on at the actual target location where the artifact is located. And so hopefully we can get to that as well and have a good time with that sort of gameplay as well. But for right now, I think we're going to go ahead and jump right into rolling up something interesting drawing some cards to find something interesting to happen at the end of this conversation that we were having during session 1. And so let's go ahead and use our handy dandy Game Master's Apprentice cards, as well as our little homemade tag symbols chart here. Again, I'll probably use we have the catalyst side and we have the complications side, and I do think the complications side would be most relevant for this situation. to introduce some interesting plot element to this conversation. Oh, I do want to also say, I talked previously about the characters also having a conversation about what supplies will be provided and what they'll be able to bring along. That doesn't sound very fun. We're just going to go ahead and assume that we are well prepared for this what's the term? This expedition. We're very well prepared for it. Alaric, that was his name, right? Alaric, the noble collector who is sending us on this expedition, is just willing to provide everything that we need. I don't think we need to be bickering about extra bags of potatoes or whatever. So we'll go ahead and just say that once this conversation in the salon is done, that's it. The next session is going to be getting right into setting sail. All right, hopefully that all makes sense. Let's go ahead, and I'm actually going to shuffle these up a little bit. Last video, I thought that the conversation and the social combat that happened here was actually quite entertaining. I'd love to hear what you guys think about how that went. Definitely let me know in the comments. I have not done a lot of social combat related or social interaction related gameplay beyond just simulating information gathering, essentially. But anyway, we've got this shuffled. I'm going to go ahead and draw us some cards to see exactly what transpires after we've wrapped up this conversation. We know who's coming. We've got a sun, a target, and a sword. And if we take a look here at our sun is an accident or a disaster. The target is a character flaw is triggered. And the sword is gear or supplies trouble. All right. All right, I have some ideas here. So we had sun, which is accident disaster, target, which is character flaw triggered, and the sword, which is gear or supplies trouble. And so what I'm thinking is they've wrapped up this conversation. They're sort of closing things out. Okay, these are the people that are coming. We're going to meet tomorrow or whatever down at the docks. He's got the ship ready to go for us and everything, and all of our supplies will be there. So, all right, everybody, let's see each other tomorrow at 8 o'clock sharp in the morning or whatever, sunrise. And so they're all getting ready to sort of get up and end this conversation. In particular, Garrick is ready to just go. He's not chummy with any of these people, Alaric or the Grave Robber or the Libertine. So he's just keen to get home. And he reaches down for his cane, which had been sort of like, I guess, leaning against the table. He had sat down and leaned it against the table and was having his conversation. So he reaches over to grab it, and he realizes that his cane is missing. And so he looks around a little bit, and then his eyes are drawn up where across the room, sort of past all these different people sitting down, talking, mingling, moving, he can see through the crowd, and there is the gypsy. And she's holding his cane just like straight up, right in front of her face, and she's staring right at him. And she's whispering words, and he focuses in on her, and suddenly he can actually hear the words that she's saying, but they're in a strange language that he's not familiar with. He recognizes it. He recognizes what language it is, but he doesn't know it. It's the gypsy language. It's her gypsy's particular dialect, her gypsy clan or nomad group. It's their particular dialect, and he can hear it sort of like disembodied in the back of his head, as if she's like right behind him saying it into his mind, but she's across the room just holding his cane, and all of a sudden he's just got tunnel vision on her, and it's like everything else goes silent and everything else kind of goes dark as well, and it's just him sitting at the table, and now she's just sitting right there at the other side of the table holding the cane and looking at him very intently, a very intense look on her face, and her speaking becomes more energetic and more intense and starts to crescendo, and then there's a slam on the table. And he snaps out of it, and he's back at this table with his new expedition partners and Alaric, and they're all looking at him like, what's going on? And he looks down at the table, and it's his cane has been slapped on the table, and right on top of it is the hand of the gypsy. He recognizes the jewelry and the sort of very patchwork but very colorful sleeve, and he follows the sleeve up and looks up at the gypsy, who's just kind of like looking down at him and has a little bit of a sort of like a cocked eyebrow, right? Like she's looking down at him, and they kind of it's this expression like, yeah, that just happened. You know, we know there's an awareness or an acknowledgement of what just happened, and a little bit of a smirk on their face as they look down at him, and they just say, "You don't want to forget this," and they lift their hand up and walk out. So we have this sort of little seed planted of a gypsy curse, question mark, right? On Garrick's cane. I think that's nice. That's good as far as a way to wrap up the Salon scene and establish something that could come back later, and surely, certainly will. Say that wraps up the saloon scene. They all say, okay, bye, we'll see you tomorrow. And the next thing that would happen is session, the next part of the story is going to be picking up where they are leaving and setting sail. But that's not going to be until next video, because this video we have a little bit of maintenance to do. We have to flesh out the grave robber and the Libertine character, determine their genders, their remaining attributes, and their remaining abilities rather, and remaining special abilities and assets and afflictions and equipment and background and personality. And so we're going to go ahead and get working on fleshing that out for the rest of this episode. All right, so we have here Garrick. That one's all done. Set that to the side, and I've got 2 character sheets here. We're going to fully flesh out these characters now that we know they are coming along on this journey with us. And we will go ahead and start with the grave robber. And we had already determined that this grave robber is the sort of like tomb robber subclass. All right, and I think we'll keep everybody at level 1 to start. And let's go ahead and get into character creation here. Let's start from the beginning. All right, step 1, character inspiration. This is an interesting one. For this character, what really comes to mind, and this is going to be very, potentially very obscure, is a character in a film called And Now the Screaming Starts, which is one of my favorite gothic horror movies. But there's this character who sort of lives on the outskirts of this estate. He's sort of like the groundskeeper, sort of like the wilderness area groundskeeper around this estate. And he's the character in the movie who always ends up sort of like leering at the female main protagonist and grinning nastily at her, and like just is like this constant uncomfortable presence that shows up. That's kind of who, because he's kind of like a greasy, he's got a scar on his face, and he's kind of just or it's not a scar, I think he has a big birthmark on his face, but just this sort of like character that the cinematography of the film sort of treats as this kind of like gross and dangerous individual. So that's kind of the inspiration. I'm gonna put I don't remember the character's name, but I'm gonna put creepy guy from And Now the Screaming Starts. And by the way, just in case anyone goes to check out this movie, it's probably streaming on Tubi for free, but don't read any of the plot synopsis on any website, even Letterboxd or IMDb. The plot summaries for this film, everywhere I've looked, have egregious spoilers in them, like really, like totally ruin the entire suspense of the film, kind of spoilers. So yeah, just avoid. Take it on my recommendation if you're into gothic horror. Check out And Now the Screaming Starts, and do not read any of the plot synopsis. I haven't looked at the trailers. I would assume the trailers are fine, but oh, by the way, the movie has Peter Cushing, so yeah, there you go. All right, anyway, let's go ahead and move on from that step to character class. Again, we've got the grave robber / tomb robber. We have the background, and this is again where I'm going to call upon our good friend Gothic Horror, the simple approach. We have archetypes, and I think You know, it's one of those things. Like, have we already kind of figured out the archetype for this character? He's sort of just like the grimy scoundrel, right? Um, grimy, selfish, self-interested, amoral scoundrel kind of character. And so instead of rolling, what I want to do is kind of look at some of these and see if any of those that are listed here fit into what we've already got sort of envisioned for this character. So I think Obsessive Hunter fits quite well. I do also like the idea of Broken Soldier. Like, this speaks to what he might be trying to cover up in this hunt, this obsessive hunt. So I'm actually going to write both of those. We're going to say Obsessive Hunter and Unquenchable Desire for Wealth. And then we're also going to have Broken Soldier. So this character carries with them all these scars from when they were a soldier and the terrible things they did and witnessed. And so no peace. I'm going to also put alcoholic / drugs. Basically just anything to numb the memories away. We'll call that escape from trauma. And this will be really good to sort of delve into on this isolated boat ride across the Mediterranean, right? I think this would be pretty cool. So as far as personalities, we'll put cynical. Very cynical. Cynical and cold. And solitary. And appearance. Let's go ahead and roll for an appearance here. My D20. 5 is going to be gaunt frame. Yeah, that fits. We'll go with gaunt frame. We'll put that over here in appearance. Gaunt frame. That fits with the character inspiration as well. He's kind of like a tall, lanky guy in And Now the Screaming Starts. And identity. There is here the haunted veteran. So war carved identity into you. Discipline remains, but peace feels foreign. Trauma shapes choice, and others rely on your experience even as it isolates you. Memory of violence returns unbidden, and nightmares bleed into daylight. You live as a soldier even when war ended, haunted by battles unresolved. I'm going to put that in here as our identity. Haunted veteran, which is sort of just the corollary of broken soldier, right? So I think as far as strengths, we'll go ahead and roll on a strength to provide this character. 4, unyielding faith. I'm going to not have him be unyielding faith. Let's roll again. We have 1, iron will. Determination anchors your spirit when fear and despair press in. You resist corruption, endure nightmares, and stand firm when others falter. This resolve inspires companions, though it often blinds you to warning signs. Willpower becomes both shield and chain, keeping you upright even as it hardens your heart. Iron will. That sounds right for this character. Haunted veteran. Put iron will. And we will put... I'm going to put in parentheses, iron will, as long as inebriated, right? As long as so we'll put with alcohol / drugs, right? Because I'll say after, when he becomes sober, which is what he's constantly trying to avoid, we'll say the trauma and everything else starts to bubble up, and his willpower starts to weaken. So he's got sort of this conditional iron will. Weakness. I think that functions as the weakness too. Addiction, right? What addiction? All right. And drives. We've already kind of discussed what drives this character. It's the next job to make money, right? He's just always looking, okay, where's this next opportunity to make money? And the reason to want the money is to get the drugs or the alcohol or the gambling or whatever to, or the prostitutes, right? Just whatever can cover up and treat his trauma and his pain and keep everything kind of suppressed. So we'll say that that's good for the background of our grave robber. Let's go ahead and come up with a name. We don't have a gender yet. I feel like I'm going to roll on it. Even is female, odd is male. The lower end of a 1 to 6 is going to be more gender conforming. So 1 would be like macho masculine man, and 5 would be like a sort of effeminate man, right? A femme presenting man. And then 2 would be like a very feminine female, whereas 6 would be a very masculine female. Yeah, let's do it that way. 1. Okay, this fits, right? He's a veteran soldier. All right, so we're gonna put a male name, and that will remind us that this is Macho Man. Oh, we didn't put those aside. All right, let's go with whatever name they show up on here. Milton. Milton. It's not really. That's not macho enough. No offense to any Miltons out there. Let's let me see my little homemade card here. Lucius. We used Lucius in our the simple approach video, which should have been released before this video comes out, so you'll be able to find that. And it's just not gritty enough. I'm really looking for something a little bit more gritty. Let's see. That one. Ronan or Ash. Ooh, Ash is good. Ronan or Ash. I'm going to go with Ash. I like Ash. Ash. And we'll say macho. To get a sense for gender identity here. All right, I like that. All right, we can move on from background. Perversity is going to be high for this character. We made Garrick 12. I feel like this guy's going to be like 14, which is pretty high. I'm going to go 15, actually. Very perverse. Personality, we went over that. Appearance, most memorable characteristic is gaunt. I feel like, let's go ahead and give him a facial scar from the military. Maybe he's one of those people that had his, like a piece of his face blown off and had it reconstructed. Like, I'm thinking of images I've seen from the Civil War. Maybe something like that. Maybe there's like a prosthetic face piece. Or maybe he wouldn't even bother. Or maybe it's just a really like flimsy, sort of low quality facial prosthetic to cover up like a missing half of his jaw or something like that. Yeah, let's put facial scar and we'll put prosthetic. All right, and the basic abilities. Alrighty, so charisma is going to be, we already have charisma decided for this character. Let's take a look. We did 7. I feel like that's even high. This is like a super uncharismatic character. So let's go ahead and do 6. I'm going to do 6. Just like an uninspiring, unattractive, unpersuasive. Because we also have, if you remember, the affliction of badly spoken. So yeah, I think that's good. Intelligence, let's see here. Grave robbers have +1 strength, +1 dexterity, +1 constitution, and -1 charisma. All right, so intelligence, if your average person's intelligence is 9, I'm going to say his intelligence is average. I'm going to say his wisdom is discerning, intuiting, and praying. I'm going to say it's an 8. It's a little bit lower. Strength is going to be high for this character. Let's say he's going to have a little bit higher on each of these. I'm trying to think of which is going to be the highest. We'll say strength is like 12. Constitution is like enduring, healing is a 12. And then we'll put him at 10 for dexterity. Maybe it's the case that his facial scar has removed one of his eyes or something like that, right? Because this does include like aiming and precision and stuff like that. Or maybe one of his eyes is damaged. Anyway, now we can move on to our special abilities and weaknesses. We already had something decided for him, I believe? No. All right, so let's go ahead and do our Grave Robber section. And we'll look at the special abilities. They're, of course, going to be the same as Garrick. We have 2 Grave Robbers, although 2 ends of the Grave Robber spectrum. Okay, and then once we have those listed, we need our hit points and our damage bonus. Grave Robber table here, they have no damage bonus, and they have a d6 hit points. 2. Okay, I don't really like the idea of Ash having less hit points than Garrick. If you'll remember, we rolled 5 hit points for Garrick. I think we're going to go ahead and put Ash at 6. I'm going to go ahead and make that call. Or I could potentially reduce Garrick's hit points. I think that's what I'm going to do. Let's put Garrick at 4. He's still a Tomb Raider type of person, so it's not going to be super low. But we'll go ahead and say 4, and then for Ash, I want to say 5. Okay, I'm going to make that call. And then we'll go ahead and move on to assets and afflictions. And we already have 2 set up. And if you'll remember, we have Good Liar and Badly Spoken. So I'll go ahead and put those in here. Our asset is Good Liar and Badly Spoken. He's just like a potty mouth, doesn't use very high vocabulary, very badly spoken. That's the term for it, right? I don't need to elaborate. All right, and then we could take a look at adding some additional ones. Let's take a look at just some of the suggested assets. So fast, bargainer, good liar, good sense of direction, good throwing arm, intimidating potentially, mechanical genius, no fear of something, profession, something, resistant to alcohol. That might be something worth putting on there. Sharp eyes, sharp hearing, shrewd, special knowledge of something, wealthy family, or wily. I'm definitely looking at intimidating and resistant to alcohol. We could just do both. But that means we're going to have 2 additional afflictions as well. So, yeah, you only live once. Okay, so we'll put intimidating here. Intimidating, comma, good liar, comma, resistant to alcohol. Because he's an alcoholic. All right, and that means we got to come up with 2 more afflictions. So we have addicted to, that is already established. We'll put addicted to, we'll just put, we'll put drugs / sex / etc. Badly spoken. And the last one here, we have asthmatic, bad reputation, bad shot, badly spoken, creepy, presence, deaf, gullible, hated by animals, horrible body odor, horrible manners, incompetent equestrian, insane, nearsighted, no head for something, sleazy, traumatic memory, ugly, or unlucky in love. I think we've already established traumatic memory, so we'll go ahead and put that. Traumatic memory. And that's just his PTSD from being a soldier, right? All right. That brings us to wealth and equipment. This is going to be easy. He's got like 50 pence on him. Not much. And let's see. Typical equipment. Let's go ahead and see what the typical equipment for a grave robber would be. A shovel, a hammer, a dozen coffin nails, a crowbar, a saw, a knife. Definitely going to give him a knife. Let's put a knife. Let's see. 1 set of rugged clothing. We'll put rugged clothing here. Rugged leather. And I'm going to give it an armor class of 1. So just a very basic sort of armor. Knife, a garrote. I did look up, I didn't know what a garrote or a garrote was. I forget how it's pronounced. It's something to strangle people with. It's like a wire to strangle people with. I think it's also a verb that means to strangle someone that way. 1 set of rugged clothing, a book of anatomy, old rags, a vial of rat poison, 1 set of fine stained cloth pilfered from a recent grave, a piece of stolen jewelry, a human hand, a wheelbarrow, a loaf of black bread, a bottle of gin, a wooden stake and mallet, and 100 to 500p. I'm going to say, that's pence. I'm going to say the bottle of gin. And I know I gave, I gave Garrick a bottle of brandy. But yeah, this guy's going to have a bottle of gin. He's going to have a knife. I'm just thinking about the shovel, hammer, nails, crowbar. I feel like all of this is equipment that he will have sort of packed on his trip on the expedition on the boat, right? Like they have this sort of equipment along with him, but he's not going to have it on his person at this point. So I think going into the boat ride, what do I want him to actually have on his person? I feel like a knife is a good one, right? I do feel like rat poison potentially. Yeah, let's say rat poison. Because he's ex-military, I'm gonna give him a pistol. Pistol and we'll give him like a reloading little pouch for reloading that has some bullets and other necessary things like the gunpowder. So let's say we'll just put bullets and assume that when I say bullets, it has everything else necessary to reload. So 5x bullets, and it's loaded. So a total of 6 shots can be fired, right? So we'll say he has that on himself. And we'll also say that on this expedition, they bring more ammo than just that, okay? All right. All right. And I think that's pretty good for assets or carried equipment at this point. The speed needs to be set up, and I believe that that is 9 for everybody except for bandits. Yeah, so 9. We already put 1 for armor class. So let's move on to our next character here. We have our Libertine. First, I'm going to roll for gender, because I kind of want that to sort of dictate the rest of this character. I'm going to say we do the same scale as we were doing before. 4. All right, and that means we can come up with a name. I'm going to draw over here for a name. The character name, Coruscant. And the last name could be, let's see, Dunmar. Personality. I'm going to go with Reckless Daredevil. Danger thrills you, spurring leaps others fear. Every risk feels like defiance, and companions watch in awe and dread. Success brings triumph, but failure courts disaster. Recklessness breaks stalemates, though it often sparks new peril. Your courage blazes brightly, yet it burns as quickly as it inspires. So I'm going to say Reckless Daredevil. As far as the archetype, they're excited by danger and by things coming undone and by the decay. I'm going to put excited by chaos. Excited by chaos. All right, let's go ahead and move on to appearance. We roll 14, which would be veiled face, gauze, lace, or shadow hides features, concealing expressions others strain to read what you intend. Unnerved by distance, the veil creates. Concealment offers protection but breeds suspicion. Mystery sharpens your influence, ensuring people remember the barrier as much as the person behind it, never separating mask from truth. I kind of think this is interesting. I think the thought that they have a veiled face is not something I expected or I envisioned, but I kind of like the idea of it. So veiled face, we'll put that here, veiled face, and in this case, it's going to be I'm envisioning like a mask, right? I wonder. I might have to think about that. I'm gonna think about Coruscant's veiled face and see what that means, and we'll have to take a look at that later. Identity, estranged twin, shared birth once defined you, but betrayal, death, or distance tore bond apart. Identity remains haunted by absence, as though part of you still lingers elsewhere. Companions sense division as loyalty and resentment war constantly. Every decision reflects shadow of sibling lost, despised, or painfully missed. I like that. Estranged twin. it could give some shape to the sort of recklessness and the excited by chaos nature of this character. Like, why do they behave like this? It's like they had the strongest type of connection you can have, like a twin, right? Some say that's like the strongest connection, the strongest bond you can have. But with that bond broken, they just are not. They're just totally made. They've become completely cynical to the concept of closeness, right? Like it's almost like trying to be close with a bunch of ants. Like that's what other humans are to them, because Coruscant has known what true connections can exist, and is just been made completely cynical about any connection with other humans. All right, let's go ahead. Strength. Let's roll and see what come up with strength. A 5 would be skilled duelist. Okay, yeah, that definitely works. So we have skilled duelist. Training makes your blade an extension of will. Grace, precision, and speed turn each strike into spectacle. Companions respect your skill, though they fear overconfidence. Mastery provides survival, yet violence leaves scars. Each duel becomes a reminder that death shades your path, no matter how polished your movements appear. So maybe again, this veiled face is from dueling scars. And so they wear a mask or a veil or maybe some dangly things over their face, or at least over their eyes. Skilled duelist, I like that. Weakness. I rolled a 6, which would be feeble courage. No, definitely not. I wouldn't say they have courage. They're just completely reckless and do not care about danger. Bleak fatalism sounds like exactly what we've been describing in a sense, right? You surrender before battles begin. No. Distrust of nature, naive innocence, consumed by pride, restless spirit, patience eludes you. You rush into danger, demand answers, and leave tasks unfinished. Companions suffer for your impulsive drive. Horror exploits haste, turning boldness into liability. Though energy inspires, recklessness damages unity, making your impatience a constant weakness that draws peril where caution would have prevailed. That's definitely it. Restless spirit. I feel like it sort of definitely speaks to the thoroughness or the value of these lists of 20 that are in this book, that I can often find, like as the character is already sort of coming to life in my mind, I can find one that fits that archetype. All right, so drives. Let's roll for drives. 16. Protective instincts. Thirst for discovery. Exploration calls you, whether hidden crypt, unknown land. Yeah, so thirst for discovery, or like we said, thirst for just novelty. Thirst for novelty is what I'm going to put. Novelty and discovery. All right, so this character is sort of coming together. Let's go ahead and move on to the next step. Where did we leave off? Okay, we haven't been following the list very well here, but character inspiration, character classes, libertine, background, we just took care of that. Perversity, we got a lot of perverse characters in this story. Is this the most perverse character? I feel like it is. Let's go with 16. Oh, yeah. Very high perversity in this party of characters. Personality, we took care of that. Appearance, we took care of that. Base abilities. Okay, so we have some of these established, right? The intelligence of 12 or 10 and the charisma of 12. So 12, 10. Wisdom, let's see here. Wisdom, we'll say average. 9. Strength, average. Dexterity, they are a skilled duelist, so we'll say 12. And constitution, I'm going to say 10, just a little above average. And we can go ahead into special abilities and weaknesses. Special abilities are disguise, +1. Dueling, okay, yep. Dueling +1, and then +3 if they're in the presence of a lover. Fraud, +1. Sneak, +1. seduction. And weaknesses, we have faithless lover, fascinated by innocence. All right, and then we need our hit points, which are 9. Damage bonus for a Libertine. Oh, no, hit points aren't 9. What am I doing? Hit points are a 1d6. 2. Okay, I think that fits. 2. Damage bonus is 0. And then we move on to assets and afflictions. And we already had some established, I believe. Well-spoken as an asset. I'm going to put skilled duelist as an asset. So it basically takes this dueling and makes it always +3 instead of just when in the presence of someone they love or seeking to love. I'm going to look at some of the other suggested assets. Artistic ability, beautiful, handsome, charming, dancer, escape artist, expert equestrian, fast, gift for languages, good manners, good reputation, great singing voice, loved by animals, musician, natural skeptic, no fear of something, resistant to alcohol, resistant to disease, sharp eyes, sharp hearing, shrewd, strong stomach, wealthy family, and well-spoken. I'm going to say no fear of death. All right. That means we need some afflictions now. We've got addicted to, afraid of, bad memory, bad reputation, bad sense of direction, chronic disease, hated by animals, incompetent equestrian, insane, lame, nearsighted, sleazy, or traumatic memory. I feel like sleazy is one of them. I feel like bad memory and bad reputation, right? Bad memory and bad reputation. They just are so in the moment all the time. And yeah, they don't have any good connections with people aside from just their sex appeal, basically. All right, and then we get wealth and equipment. I'm gonna say we'll say 500 pence. And the typical equipment for this type of character is going to be a weapon. Let's see. I'm going to say a sword. And this is their dueling sword. And it says, you could also have one set of extravagant clothes. We'll put them down here since they don't provide armor. Extravagant clothes. Piece of jewelry with a secret compartment for a miniature erotic picture or poison. Nice. We'll put amulet with compartment. Let's see here. A walking stick or parasol, a journal, pen and ink, a box of condoms, a pipe with hashish, a vial of laudanum. What does that make you do? What's laudanum? A small, is that like to seduce people? A small book of erotica, love letters, a makeup kit, forged credentials. We'll say makeup kit. And a lock of hair from an early conquest. Makeup kit, amulet with a compartment, extravagant clothes, a sword. Give her the box of condoms. And maybe the pipe with hashish. All right, that brings us to speed and armor class. 0 armor class, speed of 9, average speed. And we'll say that the fancy clothes do not obstruct their movement. And a name. We got a name. And forbidden topics. Okay. All right. So that does it, I think, for those 3 characters. If we take a look here at the character progress section, character advancement, they each get 2 experience points for every game session. Okay, 2 experience points for every game session. So does that mean, let's see, experience points of 8, they level up, 8. So it looks like they all level up, except for the Everyman, they level up 2. Grave Robber is going to level up at 6, and the Libertine is going to level up at 8. Okay, so we're going to give them each 2 experience points for last session, the conversation in the Salon. And that advances them a little bit. 2 and 2. And this puts us right where we need to be, so that at the very beginning of our next session, we will be able to set sail. And so between now and then, I'm going to go ahead and do some research, figure out what sailing in the 1700s across the Mediterranean is going to look like. And yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for watching, guys.